Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar. My name is Sofia and I'm the community manager here at UXL. Every single month, we bring design experts from all over the world to share their experience and expertise with us, and during which we cover various topics. But today we are diving deep into building a winning portfolio. What is it? How you can do it? And you will also see it in practice, as our guest today will be doing two live portfolio reviews from our community members. But before I introduce today's guest, just a couple of notes from me. This is a live session, so we love to make this a little bit interactive. Feel free to introduce yourself in the comments, tell us your name, where you're coming from. Also, the webinar will be a little bit longer than usual, so around hour and 15-ish minutes. We will first start with a discussion between Fedor and me. Then we will have a 20-minute Q&A session with everyone. And then we will use the last 20 minutes for the live portfolio reviews. For those, I would love to thank Patrick and Ivan for sharing their portfolios with us. I hope you guys are watching. For everyone else, thank you also for joining. You can post your questions anytime during the webinar, and we will get to them in the Q&A session. And if you're interested in seeing these tips applied to real life that we're going to be discussing today, stay until the end. That's when you will kind of see how we can apply them to actual portfolios. And that's it for the notes. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Fedor. Fedor is a product designer and consultant with 12, almost said 20. I aged a little bit. 12 years of experience. He's worked with companies like Twitter, Amex, IKEA, Blinkist, and he's also the author of Product Design Portfolio Final Book. It is a book dedicated to helping designers succeed in today's competitive job market. I know we all have plenty of experience with that. And, it covers topics from how to craft a successful UX portfolio from start to finish. And today we will be discussing a little bit about that, and Fedor will share his insights. So once again, thank you for joining us, Fedor. And welcome. How are you doing?
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me and the invite. I'm really excited to do the session with all of you guys. I'm doing really good, excited to dive into the topic because, as you mentioned, it's a super important topic to succeed at. So portfolios help us land more interviews and jobs from that. So really interested to talk about it today.
For sure. But for those who are joining us for the first time and who haven't had the opportunity to check your background a little bit, can you walk us through your journey in UX?
Yeah, sure. So I started 12 years ago, as you mentioned, and basically the background is that my parents are freelance graphic designers, and this is how I came to design. And I started as first studying at the university, communication design, and then I was doing different internships, like first graphic design, then UX design. Then I was working at product companies, startups, design agencies, and my last full-time job was working at Agent Smart, where we ran a lot of design sprints for companies of different sizes, starting from Twitter, IKEA, American Express, to smaller startups like Zero Fasting or Oak Meditation. And now for the last 4.5 years, I've been freelance, working with companies on my own, helping them validate products and design them. And basically with each stage of my career, there was like a portfolio connected to it, and helping me make the most out of it, like either to land an internship or like my first full-time job, or a full-time job that like would increase my salary and position and so on. and now the last time it was to land more freelance clients.
Awesome. And so you've been, surrounded by people who have been doing graphic design your whole life, and I'm sure that maybe you picked up some tips from them as well when it comes to portfolios. But what really inspired you to put all those thoughts into the book?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of side projects because
Hmm.
it's something that allows you to develop new skills and create things that haven't existed before and scratch your own itch. Like before, I released a mobile app with my friend for like reading later and saving articles for offline usage. And it's something that was interesting to me that I knew how to design a mobile app from scratch, but I've never experienced like actually releasing it and like being able to work with it like on the long-term basis and like to learn some marketing and apply it and positioning strategy and so on. And releasing the app led us to the product of the week on Product Hunt, like one of the top 20 new apps by I think it was Fast Company or something like that,
Hmm.
and the app of the day on the App Store. And if we wouldn't have done it, like it wouldn't just exist, and like we wouldn't have solved our problems. And basically, the book is the same. It's just seeing how many people are actually struggling with this challenge, like including myself. Like when I look back at how difficult it was to put together something that solves this challenge of getting a job and to package your experience in a story that like is compelling to for recruiters and hiring managers to want to talk to you. And basically just my surroundings, like my wife is an writer and editor, and like my best friend is also a writer. So, and they also inspired me to write a book like this because like I've never written a book before, and it's something that like I'm really curious doing for the first time, and helping people along the way is a really cool bonus. And I hope like it succeeds with it. And by looking at the reviews, it's already making some dent with how people work on their portfolios.
Definitely. And, I think the book itself is very well structured. It's easy and it's very helpful. It's packed with with actual insights you can take away and apply. So I'm happy to hear that it's already making a difference, and I hope that, it will continue making a difference for designers. Um, and speaking of it, a big part of the book is about case studies, and I would love to hear more about what common challenges did you notice designers face when developing them, and how can they overcome them?
Yeah. Yeah, case studies are the heart of every designer's portfolio because this is something recruiters and hiring managers look first in portfolios, and often designers want to avoid creating them, and it's completely understandable because it is a lot of work, and you don't have like 100% transparency in how they lead you to landing interviews and jobs. And like basically because you don't see the other side of the recruiting that much. But in the end, from my research for the book, when I spoke to recruiters and hiring managers, they said that it's not almost impossible to judge someone's work by not seeing the case studies, because of
Mhm.
course they're like Dribble and like visuals or like articles on Medium, but they don't shine the light on how designers solve problems and like what's the process and how they can move the business forward. So, and case studies actually show that. And when it comes to what designers struggle with them, it's usually either not knowing what to tell, like how to tell the story, or sharing too much and overloading the user with too much context, or sharing not enough. So it's always about like keeping this balance between sharing too much and like almost writing a book about one project, which is not something recruiters are looking for, because if you put them, if you put yourself in their shoes, they have like, I don't know, 30 tabs open with like different portfolios from candidate applications, and they have like around a minute to judge each one and to see like if they want to proceed with it or not. And they don't have the mind space to read like a long read about a project. And usually it's really helpful like to communicate early, like what have you achieved, like basically present the end
Result.
solution, yeah, visually, the impact and the challenge, because often designer starts with like the background and the context, and then like you just see walls of text, and it's really hard to tell like what was the problem that being solved. But if you use typography and like you actually work on the copy of the case study, you can communicate the story quite clearly, and just calling out this essential part so that recruiters and hiring managers see in a very short amount of time what they can get out of working with it potentially.
No, so that's actually a very interesting point, because usually, as you said, we start with the background, we start with explaining the project, explaining the problem we had. So just bringing up the solution up to the top would probably solve that kind of, in a sense, right? But then how do we formulate the rest of the case study? How do we structure it? Is there an order that would be a winning order, or do you have to go by case study?
Yeah, like it really depends. Like there are certain blocks that you can use, and of course, like it depends on like first of all, like what kind of story you want to communicate, and like what sides of your process like you want to highlight. But basically, you should always aim to show the challenge, your process, like basically iterations, and like your learnings, like from user testing and so on, like how you arrived at those,
Mhm.
and like showing the what was the final result, and the impact, like did it help move like a certain metric, like retention or conversion or acquisition, and your learnings, like what actually um, like what this story and product taught you, so that the hiring managers and recruiters can see that you're also self-reflective and like you're learning all the time. And like you might be, but like if you don't show it in the case study, like then people don't know, so assume that they don't know anything they haven't seen or heard from you. But also like being aware of the portfolio funnel is important, because usually designers work on two portfolios actually. Like one is for applying for jobs and one is for portfolio reviews. And you can like basically treat your online portfolio as a trailer of a movie,
Oh,
where
okay.
you show the best parts of your work and highlight those, but also just share enough context so people want to talk to you. And when it comes to the portfolio review stage, after you talk to the recruiter or hiring manager, then you can actually share more context and your thinking behind the project. But there's a balance between like how much you share like in both parts.
That makes sense. And for those who, that's great. I mean, I can hear that for individual, like freelance, maybe UX designers. But how do we strike that balance, and how do we make sure we highlight the right things for those who are working in teams? How can we then strike the balance between not sharing too much or maybe highlighting only our individual contributions in such cases?
Yeah, um, it's it's a great way to show your impact by basically specifying your role within the project and the team, like saying I was a lead designer, or I was one of 3 designers working on this project, and I was responsible for X, and the rest of the team was user researcher, Anna, and product manager, and lead engineer, and so on. And this way, you already build a story, like and people know like, oh, actually you worked in a team, and you have experience working in cross-functional teams. But you also have to have the balance between taking too much pride or like too much responsibility for what you have worked on versus taking too little. Because when I talk to recruiters, some of them said like, I don't want to see we in case studies, because this is actually your story and it's not like a portfolio of your whole team. Like just tell me from your own perspective what happened, what was the impact. Like don't talk like for the whole team, which actually makes a lot of sense. But I also understand like when people say we, like they just want to highlight the impact of the whole team, and like they don't want to overshadow anyone. But like also respectfully you have to like highlight your contribution a bit more, so that you put yourself like in a position that like companies want to hire you for.
Like a position of like knowledge and competent authority, I guess. Well, good, thank you.
Yeah, it's
And
okay.
speaking of, making your portfolio stand out, striking that balance between being informative but also standing out for the recruiters who have only a few seconds to really glance over it. What are some elements that you think should be included in the UX portfolio to make it stand out?
It really depends on the type of company you're targeting. Like for example, there are like high craft companies like Notion, Airbnb, Framer, and so on, and Stripe. And when I talked to a recruiter who worked at Stripe and is now at Notion, like the first thing he mentioned was like craft, and it might be like a, I don't know, kind of like a trendy word or something, or like hard to tell what it exactly means. But in his opinion, like it was attention to typography, to colors, to layout, and like everything that comes with visual design. And if he sees like, I don't know, Comic Sans or something like, then it's a turn off.
Yeah.
But like basically it's really like a balance of like what you want to communicate versus like what companies are looking for. Because if you want to make yourself stand out more, then you don't want to follow others, and like you don't want to follow like 99% of the advice, probably including the craft advice. Because like if you are like, oh, I'm not gonna follow this advice and like make portfolio like really terrible, then like you will make your portfolio stand out, but like it's not going to be effective. So just think like what you actually want to show, and there are like certain examples of that. For example, like there is portfolio of Marco Kornakia, who worked first at Diagram, that was then acquired by Figma, and basically his portfolio is like just like cards that are interactive. Like you hover over something and like it completely changes, and like there's like a fully functional audio player and so on. And just by looking and interacting with this portfolio for a few minutes, you just know that this person is like really into prototyping and like making like experiments and potentially experimenting with code. And if it's something that like my company is hiring for, then this portfolio like 100% fits me, and I would want to talk to this person. So again, like it really depends on what you want to achieve and communicate, and you stand out.
So it's really about what you want to show off, where you're applying for. Okay, so those are the two main things people should be looking into, right? And what are some of the common mistakes you notice that people make when they try to showcase their personality in the portfolio?
Yeah, I think the first impression matters a lot. And when you open someone's portfolio and it's either like loads for a really long time, or you just see the headline that like is not like super descriptive of the designer's personality and like their unique skills, then it's also like not a very good impression. For example, I don't know, every designer focuses on like solving problems and making unique solutions on for users. But if we all put it in the headlines and bio, then we're just gonna all sound the same. So like, what's your unique position that you can communicate in your tagline? Like, do you have background in like architecture and you like really system think in person, or are you also an illustrator and actually like very visual person? So those two are complete opposites. And because like, of course, we want to solve problems, but now is the problem of the positioning that we should be able to solve for ourselves. But yeah, like maybe the other thing is not sharing enough information, because like when companies want to hire you, like it's not like just like adding a check mark next to like this designer position, which can be filled by anyone. They want to have like a personality in their team that can bring like their own vibes and quirkiness to the team, and like add to it like interesting dialogues and discussions and hobbies and interests that can elevate the quality of the work, and also just like the team spirits and inspire everyone.
Makes sense. So you should also think about showing more of yourself, right? Okay, and you said that recently you also did like another portfolio for getting new clients, right? As a freelancer. Did you have any difficulty sitting down to do it? How did you fit it into your schedule? And we have a lot of people always saying, I should really be working on my portfolio, but I never get to it. How was that experience for you? Did you have to push yourself? And if you have any tips for them, would love to hear that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's always a challenge because it's not always like a super pleasant experience to work on a portfolio, because it's really challenging, and like it might not be working out perfectly from the first try. and like the process might not be enjoyable, but you have to look at like what you're getting out of it, like and trying to enjoy the process as much as possible, because it can also be enjoyable. It doesn't have to be always hard. But when it came to time, like basically there are two use cases or contexts. Like one is when you're between jobs, and one is when you're employed at a company, but you're kind of like thinking about changing jobs, or you just want to keep your portfolio updated. So those two contexts like influence when you can work on the portfolio. And in my case, like when I was going freelance, I was employed at a company, but I knew I wanted to move this to make this move, and it meant that I would work on it in my free time. I would work on it in the weekends, in the evenings, and like you can also try to stack it with another activity that you're doing. It's a tip from the book Atomic Habits
Yeah.
by Adam Grant, I
Adam.
think.
Yeah.
I
Habit
forgot
stack.
what.
You guys can check it out, and
Yes.
the book as well. Yeah.
Because we all are doing something quite consistently. We all have dinner, or we all go to gym, or we all watch the Netflix. And if you can like stack work in the portfolio for 30 minutes for an hour every day, like before or after the activity that you're already doing, then there's a better chance that you'll actually do it versus like procrastinating it. And it also depends on your motivation, right? Like if you're between jobs, then you're motivated to finish this, so you have a version of a portfolio that you can apply to jobs with. And like if you want to change jobs, like when you're employed, like there's also motivation, like but maybe it's a bit less. So you have to see like how much you have to adjust your schedule and routine to make time for this new activity. But of course, in the end, it's not going to be like you're not going to be working on it on your whole life. Like it's only like for an X amount of time, like maybe a few weeks, a few months, and then hopefully you're done until the next big career update.
But I'm curious, how long did it take you to complete it? Like the last one, the most recent one, right?
I mean, I would say 6 months, but I didn't have a proper deadline. Like I was just like really taking my time and exploring different directions, and like playing around with tools and so on. So it was like I have a strict deadline, and I have to release a portfolio version or something bad is going to happen or something. Like I was just enjoying the process and not taking it too seriously. And in the end, like I got to result like I was happy with like for a few years, and now like I'm in the process like of updating it, and it's like taking more time because it's not like that much of a priority, and I just have to see like when is the best time to release it. Like do I need like more projects, like more interest from companies or not? Like if not, then it's kind of like no point to update it. But of course, a lot of people say that you always have to have your portfolio updated. Like you have to have the new case studies and so on. But in reality, it doesn't work for 99% of designers that I know, at least.
Yeah, it's a bit difficult to manage to do it unless you have a goal while you're doing it, right? So if one thing people can take away is like to set a deadline, right? And if it's urgent, I guess it will be sooner than 6 months.
Yeah.
And yeah, and what tools did you use, and what tools do you recommend for those who are just starting out or want to update their portfolios?
Yeah, I'm not gonna be super different from other questions. I'm gonna start with the
That's
depends, because it really depends on your situation, right? Like if you just learned that you're not going to have your job in 2 weeks, versus like you have 6 months to work on a portfolio, like your approach will be different, and your tool selection will be also different. But also it depends on your skills and like what you're comfortable with. Like some people are comfortable with like are with writing everything in code and like using Next.js and like pushing their portfolios like on Versa and so on, like setting up everything custom by themselves. Some people are happy with using no-code tools like Webflow, Framer, or Redimac. And if you're really like on a short kind of like deadline and you want to get the first version like quite fast, then reverting like to the tools you use every day, like Figma or Keynote or like Figma Slides, is a perfectly reasonable approach, because then you'll have a result sooner than with other options. And you can also approach it like as product work, where you just iterate. Your first iteration is going to be a presentation in Figma Slides. Then you can think about like making a homepage in a no-code tool for the website. Then you can link from your website to like case study presentations in Figma Slides, like as a kind of like an in-between stage. And then you can think of how can I transfer my case studies from Figma to a website, like in Framer, for example. So like basically you can approach it this way, where it's a journey and you don't have to strive for like the perfectionism like from the start, and just start small and iterate from there. And you're gonna hopefully gonna get more feedback during it, like when you talk to your friend designers, to recruiters and hiring managers, and like hopefully they give you feedback, and you can always iterate from there. So don't try to nail it from the first try.
Yeah, I guess that comes with everything, right? It's better to put something out there rather than wait for it and try your best to always make it perfect. Um, and that's a good point as well, like starting small. I think that many people will actually appreciate and take that away with from the webinar, right? As advice. But unfortunately, I have a lot more things I wanted to ask you, but so do so do the people who are joining us today. So, if you don't mind, I would love to read a couple of questions and start the Q&A now.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just also let everyone know, though we already have a lot of questions. So, starting from the first one we got, I will bring it on screen. Erica asked, how do you do, or what do you do when you cannot show the design or name of the brand that you're working with? She's now a consultant and she's not sure how much info can she publish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's super common challenge when you work on something and you have an NDA. Like most of the time, you would have one versus not, and it's really like up to the employer or the client how much you can share. Like in 80% of time, they're fine with sharing once the product or project you worked on is live. And to be extra sure, you can also share the draft of the case study with the client. Like sometimes it can be a good tactic, so that they can greenlight, and like so you don't share any super important information. But if you aren't sure, then just stay on the safe side and like try to obfuscate figures that are important to the like business metrics. Like I don't know, if the retention improved, like you might not post the original retention, but like only share how much it changed, like plus 2% or something.
Mhm.
But again, like it depends on what clients and employers allow to show. And if it's really strict, then you can also change the branding and basically show that it's not, I don't know, Twitter that you worked with, but some this new startup or something in the same category that in the end you'll have a case study that solved the exact same challenge and had the solution, but then there is no like legal background or like precedent that you shared something I don't know, confidential, and like no one knows which company it is. So you have to try like to be strategic about it, kind of.
I have a follow up on that. So, if she were to change the branding, um, is the advice to maybe just slightly change it or completely like make up a whole new brand, or maybe like what is the best best way to approach that?
Yeah, it's a good question, but like again, it depends. Like I
Hmm.
think uh, it would be good like to think about like what's the smallest change I can make to for it to solve the problem of not being associated with this company. Like probably you change the logo, you change the main color, maybe
Yeah.
some typography. Like with design systems, like it should be quite easy to do that.
Hmm.
If you have like access to like some local ones in your personal Figma account, and then you already changed everything, and like it didn't take that much time. So I wouldn't advise like coming up with like a completely new like product that you would have to do a lot of work for if it's only like for one case study.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you. And thank you, Erica. Kel has a follow up actually as well. Um, if I know I can share public info about the project I'm working on, however, the new project is not yet live, so I can't share my UX research results. Should I wait? I
Mm-hmm.
guess, yeah. I'm not
Yeah, I would
sure.
say so. Like, I mean, depending on how big of a role the research played, like if it brought like really interesting results and like led to some um, iterations that couldn't have gone without them, like would be hard to explain in the case study, then I would definitely wait. But either way, I would lean on to waiting, like telling a more full story versus just releasing something like short in the beginning. But maybe it can also be starting from there and like just writing as much as possible for like your study without them, and just seeing how they will fit after.
Makes sense. Um, we have, thank you, Cal. We have a question from Jasmine. Should you tailor your UX portfolio differently depending on where you're aiming for freelance work versus applying to a company? We kind of touched upon this, but what are some of the key differences you should highlight?
Yeah, yeah, it's a great question. So the key differences is that when you're looking for a full-time job, typically you're going to be working with other designers and within a team, and you have to show how well you work within a team, like your cross-functional experience, and basically how well-rounded you are, and like with the soft skills as well. While with the freelance work, it's a bit different because they look for essential results, like what can you achieve them in a super short amount of time, and you're not going to be spending like weeks on onboarding and like months on research of course, depending on the project. But there you have to communicate like what results clients can expect from you, like what kind of quality that you can bring, and like how they can work with you. Like, is it going to be an exclusive relationship, like where it's only this company that you're going to be working with, or is it like multiple clients? Are you gonna like, how are you gonna charge? Like, is it like hourly or like weekly and so on? So all of these details like actually matter. And when people use the same portfolio to apply for full-time jobs and also like for their freelance business, it's not always the best, because these differences are important. Like even how you communicate, like for example, when you show the logos on your portfolio, you can say like these are my clients. Like for a full-time role, like it might sound a bit irrelevant, because it can be your clients, it can be your past employers. So like even with this like tiny details in copywriting, it also matters.
So kind of the form more and less stays the same, but the communication on it is different,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Jasmine. Oh, okay. We have actually a lot of questions about like people who are transitioning, who are beginners and don't have a lot of experience yet with real projects. Do you have any tips for them how they can structure case studies, and what can they do if they don't really have that real life
Mm-hmm.
projects that they worked on?
Yeah. I mean, structuring them wouldn't be that different. Like it would just depend on what kind of process did you do, and like what were the end results, and you can always show that. But if it's not like a real project, like you can always use publicly available product design challenges that you can solve,
Mhm.
and describe your process in the case study. For example, I don't know, designing an app to find like people who would walk your dog in the morning or something. Like how would you approach that? Like, and you can share that. Like another option is creating a side project, and describing a process for that, and actually making it live, so you can learn from the live user feedback and so on. But it's not that different from any other case study, like where you show the final result, where you show the impact, where you show the challenge, and just don't focus on like ticking the boxes that are like that the bootcamps often teach, like, oh, you always have to have wireframes, or you always have to have user persona, you always have to have like mind maps and so on. Like just think about it like critically, and think like, does it actually add to the story, or like does it just feel like the case study with just too much information that like doesn't seem valuable or relevant to the companies I'm gonna apply to.
So they don't really have to have all of those elements, but like, okay, less is more. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and let's see. Thank you, Jessica. And I hope that this also answers. I see a lot of these, the same type of questions, like what do we do when we don't have real life experience? Um, I have one question from David or David. If you had to choose only two portfolios as steps to follow, which would they be? Okay, I think like two tips for making portfolios. Which would they be?
Yeah, like I wonder like if the question is about portfolio examples or just about steps for making portfolios. But if it's
David, thank
if it's about
you.
portfolio examples. Basically, what often designers do is collecting inspiration for their portfolios, and it's completely normal. Like how other designers,
Yeah,
yes,
portfolio
portfolio
examples.
examples, great. So what designers do is that collect inspiration, like with any other project, when it comes to design. So it's not that unique, but they're finding like different parts and elements from other portfolios that they like, and they can kind of borrow and work further on for their own portfolios. But it's not 100% relevant to what you want to do. Like if you just created a bootcamp and you're looking at a portfolio of a principal designer, like at Instagram, like it's not going to be that applicable to your own situation, because of course, like as a North Star and like something to strive for, it's a great example, but it won't be too relevant for you at this point in time. And if you look at where you are in the journey and like, well, and like where people are, whose portfolios are you taking inspiration from, and if it's like too far ahead, like, or too far like behind, then it's not super relevant. So I can say like those two exist, but basically if you read my book, I'm gonna say it for the first time. I share examples there, like based on the relevancy, and for example, like for the case studies, if you're applying for like at a job at a FANG company, like so either like Meta or Apple, Amazon, and so on, like I recommend looking at Katya Lavrenova portfolio. Maybe I can write it to you in private chat, and
Yeah, I
you can,
will share with everyone. Sure.
like, she has a really great case study structure, but again, like it applies mainly to big companies. So this is one example, right? Like, so there aren't two portfolios that are going to be like super essential to your own.
But there is also inspo here that they can check out. I
Yeah,
hope.
let me share the second one. So like David really wants me to share two portfolios, so I'm gonna do that. The other one is Marco Carnacchia, who I mentioned before, with the prototypes and stuff.
There we go. Hopefully, this is helpful. Thank you, David. And we have like a little bit more time left before we head into the live portfolio reviews. So this is a question that I would also love to bring up. It's just a little bit further up. Okay, here we go. Frankie asks, what are the main differences between a portfolio deck and a full portfolio website? The term pops up a lot lately, but I haven't never used it before.
Mm-hmm.
So you also mentioned like having one portfolio website where it's going to be like live and available for everyone to see, but also another version of the portfolio that you show for portfolio reviews later on in the hiring process. So what is the difference really?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, there's the funnel of like the job interviewing process, like where you start from applying for a job, and there you use your online portfolio, and um, it's either a website or PDF or a presentation, like basically a link that you can send. And the portfolio deck is when you actually succeeded going through the first round, like maybe first two rounds, and after that you have to present for the portfolio review. And in that case, you actually have 30 minutes, 30, 45 minutes to walk through 2 case studies, and the case study structure might be the same, but it's just that if before your voice was your copy on the website, then in the actual interview, like you can actually talk about yourself, so that you choose like, oh, if I'm speaking to Spotify, like what do they appreciate like in designers? Like it also can come down to details, like for example, saying hi Spotify in the deck that I'm presenting my screen with, and so if before your online portfolio was like a trailer to the movie, then the portfolio review deck is your movie, because there you basically are unlimited to share the story, although like you have 15 or like 20 minutes depending on how you want to split the time between the case studies. Often what people do is they show one focus on like product thinking and like problem solving, and one on like craft. For example, it can be a design system or like a redesign and so on, like more from the visual standpoint, so that you show that you're like well-rounded and not just like specializing either just in UX or UI. So yeah.
And it makes sense to have one tone of voice on your public portfolio and then adjusting it to what you're applying to later on in the private one, right? Or the portfolio deck. Really great advice. Thank you. And thank you, Frankie, for the question. I will have to stop us now with the questions and the Q&A session. And now we have some time left for the portfolio reviews. I will just remove this off the screen, and I will let you, Fedor, share your screen if you would like for the portfolio reviews.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, by the way, thanks a lot to everyone for your questions. It was really great. And thanks a lot for your comments. And if you read the book, I really appreciate you and share it in the comments.
We have
Cool. So,
somebody's your soul.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Cool. So I have 2 portfolios here. And I'm gonna try to first walk through them like quite quickly to simulate what recruiters and hiring managers might be experiencing and doing on your website once they are reviewing your application. So I'm gonna refresh the website to see how fast it loads. So it loaded pretty fast. Here I see that Patrick Clarin, sorry, I probably don't know how to pronounce it.
It's okay.
He's experienced as a visual designer. This is great. And then I can quickly scroll through it. Like I have the design process and portfolio and project and so on. I think first of all, like it looks really nice, and it really shows how much care this person invested into it. The first thing that kind of like stood out to me, that if I start focusing now, like there's a typo, and like then it's kind of like you don't want to show that to people who might be reviewing, like seeing like a typo from the first go. And first of all, like I think showing your experience and like the process is great, but typically what recruiters and hiring managers do is that they look at the CVs, and basically you're probably repeating the information that they just saw before clicking on your portfolio. And when they do that, they want to, as quickly as possible, see your work and go to case studies. So right now, like it took me a few sections to go there, and now I can finally see it, and I think it looks great. So like both mobile apps and some desktop apps or websites. And if I was like looking for a designer like with like data visualization skills, or like someone with experience in B2B, like I think that can be a great fit just like by looking at these thumbnails. But I would also curate them, because like if you look at it, like some of it can look outdated. Like for example, like the more I go down, like the more outdated it seems. So you have to curate like how much work you show. Like you don't have to show your whole CV in the portfolio. Like you don't have to show like, oh, I worked on this project like 15 years ago. Like unless you were like the first designer at Facebook, like I think it's not that interesting or relevant. But let's look at the case study as an example now. Right, so this is also something unexpected. Like when I click on a card like this, I expect to go into a case study, but it just showed me the full preview of the image. So, and as I mentioned before, like designers really need to focus on case studies, because this is how people like hiring managers and recruiters judge portfolios. And if the profile of the designer like was really fitting, and I would love to talk to them more, like maybe the first thing I would do like is ask for case studies. And like my friends who are interviewing with companies report on the same experience. If they don't have case studies on their websites, it means that people will either request them if you apply to like a more or less like big company, or they're just gonna pass on your portfolio, and you didn't get like too much chance to tell your story through your work. The other one, but otherwise, it's a really cool looking portfolio, and like I love that there are also reviews, which builds trust. And there is also the CTA. So like if I wanted to reach out to this person, if I like the profile and their experience, then it's easily possible, and I can just write an email right away to them. But yeah, like if this person would add case studies, I think that would be a great start to make this portfolio better. But of course, if looking for a job for them is not a priority, then case studies don't matter that much, because if you don't want to change jobs, then it might be I don't know, too early to invest in them. But otherwise, it's really cool. So the other one is a Behance portfolio, and like it comes with its own limits. Like you can't customize it like that much as you would be able to with a presentation or website. You can't tweak the bio too much or something. Like right now, you can only see like that Ivan is a UI UX designer, like in this company in Serbia, like, and then I have to scroll down to see, to read like more about them and their story. And like I don't know how many people actually do that versus just like jumping into work. So if I just judge by the thumbnails, like yeah, everything looks really nice. Like I'm not sure like about this two. Like if Ivan says like he's a UX designer, like depending on what kind of job he wants to pursue, like those two might not be super relevant. Like how many times like working at a company, they wanted to work on the logo, so or like a poster. Like of course, if you're just joined the startup and like they want you to work on everything like branding and communication and the product, then it might be a fit. But if you're pursuing like a bit bigger companies, which tend to have different teams for different like basically focuses, like either branding or design or product. So you have to better position your portfolio, even like with thumbnails, because they give you a pretty quick impression of what a person does. So let's have a look into this one. So like what I'm wondering here is that sign up form for SaaS platform, and I see Calm, and Calm is like a pretty famous meditation app, and I don't know if it's a SaaS or something. So then the question like, did Ivan like really work on Calm, or like is it like something like he practiced, like which is not 100% clear. So just judging by that, but this is already a great start, because this is a case study and allows people to look more into problem solving skills of Ivan. And I think like overall it looks pretty good. Like I'm just not sure like about the part like if it was like real work or something that Ivan just wanted to add to his portfolio, like had like an imaginative challenge or something. So right now, like it's not 100% clear what the challenge was that Ivan was solving. Right now, I see the assignment and the analysis, which are good. Like if you know what was the problem, like if the problem was just like to design the sign up form, then like why did it have to be designed? Like what was wrong with the previous one? And I think Ivan goes into here now in this part. But overall, like would be good to have like some behind logic. Like for example, there is a case study from Blinkist on redesigning the paywall, and how it led to a 25% increase in amount of people who started free trial. And in this case, this person could just like could just say like, oh, we had to design a paywall, but not sharing this context about the challenge that people were forgetting that they subscribed to this app and to this free trial that is going to end at 7 days and is going to charge users. Like the solution actually improved the conversion that much, and like not sharing that important part of the story like would be missing. So let's look at something else. I like what Ivan does is that he shows the result right away, so you can actually see the visuals, and the headline is quite clear, and here's the same. And actually, like I think it's the similar challenge as in the previous case study, where it's not clear like what was the problem that Ivan's solving. So like right from the start, Ivan goes into like user personas and demographic and user flow, but like what was actually the challenge? Like why did this app have to exist? So just by looking at like at these things, like it should be really easy to tell like what was the challenge, like like what was the final result like, and here Ivan does this pretty well, and then what was the impact, like what was the result of this work. So I think like if 2 out of 3 components are missing, then they're like certain like area for improvement. And if you want to show your visual choices, then like doesn't mean that you're specializing like in visual design, or like what's the what value do you want to add by showing this. So just by thinking about what you communicate critically can really improve how you show work. And so that in the end, what hiring managers and recruiters see is a coherent story that they understand how can be applied to their business, like once hired. But yeah, I would say like everything looks really nice, and just adding this bits of context would really be helpful. So those were the 2 portfolios that we had.
Yes, Patrick and Ivan, thank you so much
Yes, thanks a
for
lot.
sharing them with us.
Mhm.
So, if you could say one piece of advice to both Patrick and Ivan, what would that be? I think for Ivan, it's more adding context to the case studies, and what would be for Patrick?
Yeah. So both have space for improvement in the case study area, and as we mentioned, like this is both like what people struggle with, what hiring managers and recruiters are looking for. So just investing more time into it, and like communicating as much as possible via case studies, because you don't have to duplicate your CV in a portfolio. They already have your CV. And like how can you highlight your work better, like knowing that they already probably have seen your experience. Now it's time for the portfolio and like visuals to play a bigger role. So I would say starting from showing the work, which actually one does really well, and then going to the details on how they can help the business by showing the those bits and pieces from the previous projects.
Mhm. Sounds good. Thank you for sharing that, Fedor, and thank you for doing the portfolio reviews. I'm sure that Patrick and Ivan will appreciate it. Um, Also, thank you for joining us today. I had a lovely conversation. I learned a lot about portfolios, and I honestly cannot wait to share the insights with the rest of the community and maybe those who weren't able to join us today. I hope that everyone who watched us also will take away some great insights. I would love for you to keep an eye out for the email that's gonna be in your inbox very soon. You will receive a recording. I would love if you could use a couple of minutes and just tell us how did you like our session, and also you will receive a small gift. Um, and yeah, I hope I will see you all next time. Fedor, once again, thank you so much for joining. I hope you had a good session as well. And is there anything you would love to tell everyone who is watching us before we end the stream?
Yeah, thanks a lot to everyone for joining. It was really great to talk about such an important topic. And as you can tell, we could just continue for many more hours, because like every aspect of portfolio is like you can like talk a lot about it, but in the end you have to have something that you can show to potential employers. So just take as much information as you need from a session like this, and hope you succeed with portfolio building and landing a job, and that you have the success and enjoyment from your career, which matters the most. So I hope really like this, and thanks a lot, Sophia, for moderating so well. And if you have any questions, feel free to add me on LinkedIn, and I'll try my best to reply to everyone. And yeah, I'll see you online.
Right, before we go off, let me just share your profile if anyone would love to connect with you and ask you questions. Feel free to share Fedor's.
Yeah, I realized I haven't showed the book, like,
Yeah.
so that people know that it actually exists. So if you're curious to continue learning about the topic, know that it's real. Like, it's not made up. It's not like a scheme or something. So everything is real, and as you've seen from a few comments, that it's actually helpful. And if you want, give it a read, and I would love to share your hear your feedback.
Yes, the book is great. I just started reading it myself this weekend, and I'm really confident it will help a lot of people who want to dive deeper into the topic. Thank you, Fedor. Thank you, everyone. Hope to see you all next time. Bye bye.
Oh, thanks so much. See ya. Bye.